Hi, small business owner. So, we are continuing a series here on TikTok Live where we are talking about building your team, hiring employees, independent contractors, virtual assistants, whatever you call them. If you are not following me on TikTok, go find me so you can join me for these lives. And if you're on TikTok seeing me, make sure you follow my account so that you get notified of each of these lives that I'm doing each day, all about how to build your e-commerce business. If you're on watching me somewhere else, be sure to follow my account wherever you're at so you can get notified of each of the videos that I release to help small business owners build a profitable e-commerce brand. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump in for the question of the day. We will always be covering frequently asked questions on these videos. And currently we are in a series about building your team. We've already completed a series about analytics. We have questions about Facebook analytics, Google analytics, email analytics, podcast analytics, YouTube analytics. Go back and check out those videos. And today we're going to be answering the question, is it better to hire employees or independent contractors? So I have a whole series of reasons for what I'm going to answer, but I'm not going to give you the answer yet. You need to pay attention, listen to what I have to say, because this may be different for you depending upon what it is you want. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of hiring employees versus independent contractors. So again, today's question is it better to hire employees or independent contractors? So let's talk about the pros and cons of hiring employees. Pro for employees is that there is less turnover. The reality is that if someone is an employee, they have a tendency to stick around longer than an independent contractor, theoretically. I will say, in my experience, although I've never actually hired employees, I choose to hire independent contractors. My independent contractors stick around for quite a while. Second pro potentially for hiring an employee over an independent contractor is that typically you're gonna have less training overall. So not necessarily less training for each person, but less training overall because there's less turnover. So you're not having to go from the beginning, from scratch, to train a lot of people. So pros for an employee, less turnover, less training. Those two are kind of connected. Cons for hiring an employee. It is less flexible. Typically, when you are hiring an employee, it is like you're hiring them for 40 hours or 20 hours or whatever the case may be, but it's typically more of an hourly position. So you're kind of locked into what you need. There's also additional expenses, things like health insurance. All of these things play into what you need for an employee. So benefits, expenses or benefits you have to pay for an employee. You have to do the tax stuff and all of these things. You do have to do taxes for 1099 employee as well. Sorry, I'm not trying to make it sound like you don't have to do taxes one way. But so pros and cons of hiring an employee. Pro, less turnover, less training. Cons, less flexibility, meaning you're stuck in the hours and there's typically more expenses with an employee over an independent contractor. So for those of you just joining us, we are answering the question, is it better to hire employees or independent contractors? We are in a series all about building your team, and I'm answering the frequently asked questions when it comes to building your team. We previously did a series about analytics. If you have any questions about those, go back and watch it. Let's go to our second thing, which is an independent contractor. So the pros of hiring an independent contractor are that it's less expensive. That is legitimately the case, typically. And usually it's going to be more efficient. So you will hire someone to get a specific job done. And maybe they stick with you for the long term, or maybe they're literally only there for one specific job. And then you move on to the next job. Their goal, usually with an independent contractor, there's like a fixed rate of some kind. Their goal is to get it done as quickly as possible so they can move on to the next job. So it's usually less expensive and more efficient to hire an independent contractor over an employee. Cons of an independent contractor: you have less control. They decide how and when they're going to complete their tasks, and although not always, and usually you just kind of have to work with whatever they decide to give you. So whatever skills they have, that's what they're going to use. It's not usually as much of, you don't have as much control over an independent contractor as an employee. Second con, there's more turnover. This is the exact opposite of what we talked about with employees. Usually there's more turnover. A lot of times independent contractors are brought on a case-by-case basis. Even if it is more of a long-term assignment, they are still more likely to be like, well, I found a job somewhere else and I'm just going to give up everything, because they're not fighting that desire to make sure they have benefits and all of these things. With an employee, usually there's a waiting period before they get those benefits. And so if they quit, not only do they lose their job and have to go somewhere new, they also lose those benefits, which is one reason why the turnover is less for an employee than an independent contractor. An independent contractor doesn't have that thing. So the only thing that matters to them is pay and maybe, you know, if they really like you or something, which is why most of my independent contractors stick around. All right, guys, so today's question was, is it better to hire employees or independent contractors? We've gone over the pros and cons for employees and independent contractors. Depending upon your situation, you may find that the answer that you want is different. Also, you can always hire both. For me, up to this point, I have worked with independent contractors and it's gone exceptionally well. I have no problems with them sticking with me. And I also have had interns in my business, which are unpaid interns. So I have not actually worked with employees, but these are the pros and cons if you need to decide what you want to do. I will say for an independent contractor, when it comes to taxes, easy file for biz is what I usually use for those 1099s. Super easy to do. You literally just put in how much money they made and it's really easy to file. I think I paid like $7 for each of my virtual assistants last year to hire or to file through e-file for biz. And so that makes it really simple. With employees, the taxes and things are much more difficult. So just some things to think about hiring employees versus independent contractors. If you have any questions, of course, you can always shoot those to me through social media, through my email, go ask on YouTube, wherever you want to find me. And tomorrow we will be answering another frequently asked question about hiring your team. Have a great day. I hope to see you soon.